What's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. I apologize, it's not too loud right now, but the construction going on outside I'm sure will make its way into this video because, it's literally all day, every day. It's been like that for like 2 months. I'm really starting to lose my mind, I think, a little bit, man. It's a lot when it's directly outside your window, so I apologize for that because I've been trying to record around when they do it, and that has put me in the bit of a hole more than once in the last few weeks, and this was actually one that I did shoot when there was no jackhammering going on, and then the video file corrupted, so I gotta do it again, and if I don't get it done today, then I'm sitting 2 episodes behind again on this show, and we're going into the finale tonight, later on tonight, early tomorrow morning for me, for part 1 of this season of television that I always enjoy watching. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat, we're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free, and then a little spoilery into American Horror Story Double Feature Part 1 Red Tide Episode 5. That's right, the penultimate episode to the first part of this double feature season. And you know what? This might be one of the best episodes to kind of symbolize how I feel about this season as a whole. If you've been following me during the course of American Horror Story this season, you know, early on I really liked the concept that these vampires we were getting weren't regular vampires, right? They were kind of like genetically created vampires because of this little pill that opens up the portion of the brain that allows you to be super creative if you are a creative person. I like that. I thought it was an interesting concept. And something that I was kind of excited to dive into, and considering that, you know, we know Falchuk and Murphy struggle sometimes with really finding a satisfactory end to a full season, I was like, okay, man, this little one-off story, you can find some interesting stuff here. And the problem of this season has been that they've kind of gone down the very predictable route by introducing the Gardner family. I think they've been probably the biggest issue with the season, and I didn't really get it until this episode. Like I said, this episode kind of highlights the pros and the cons of the season as a whole thus far. And I feel like by kind of telling this portion of the story through the lens of the Gardners, while there's interesting stuff, right? Alma being in play with the pill was the most interesting thing of that part of the story for me. And it still is, because Brian Kira Armstrong is having a fantastic season. What she's doing is terrifying a grown man. This guy, for sure. I'm sure a few of you guys are scared of this little girl as well. And that's been the most interesting part of the story. But for me, where I want to live and breathe this season, Mickey and Karen. I think they're the 2 most interesting characters in this portion of the season, and we have gotten so very little of them, which is why I love this episode, because we get a lot of them. I also love me some Belle Noire and some Austin Summers, being played by Frances Conroy and Evan Peters. They have been highlights every episode that they're in. Frances Conroy, easily the MVP of the season thus far, and this episode kind of hurts a little bit because those 2 are not in the episode really at all. We get a little bit of Belle, but they kind of are not there for this part of the season. And then the character that I think is the make or break character, the character that I wish we would have spent maybe the most time with, maybe the character we should have told the story from perspectively, like to kind of enter into this, and that's the Chemist, which is why I loved last week's episode, but wasn't sure how that backstory was going to deliver something satisfying for us to the end of part 1 of Red Tide. And that's kind of been the problem, man. It's like, I think the more interesting things, the things that could catch you by surprise, really live in that realm. And I have friends who have said to me a few times, like, man, like, yeah, the performances have been really good this season, definitely elevating the material, but like, the season's been kind of boring because you can kind of see where it's going because of that Gardner story. And this episode highlights that. The biggest thing that I think we've all been waiting for comes in episode 5. And things play out fairly predictably. But here's where I'm like, this is why the season is a conundrum. This is one of the most entertaining episodes of the entire season. Like, everybody that gets screen time has a great time with what they're given. And it's not that we're having a great time inside of the story, but the actors certainly are given some fun things to do. We get to spend a bunch of time with Culkin and Sarah Paulson, who we spent criminally low amounts of time with, specifically tuberculosis Karen. And I mean, so entertaining to watch those two at work, because Macaulay Culkin has been phenomenal, man. Like, give him all the freaking screen time. And Sarah Paulson, like, she's had so little to do this season, and yet every time she's on screen, she steals that scene or reminds you, hey, I'm so good at what I do. And this episode, the most, man. She hit some emotional punches in this episode that, like, semi-floored me. I was so impressed. And just the range of emotions and things that she's going through in this episode, really, really great stuff from Paulson. And that's where I kind of just sit and I'm like, I'm in this tough place, man, because I think the last 3 episodes have probably been the strongest of the season, and considering that Murphy and Falchuk's track record is not ending super strong, should be exciting me, because like they're kind of, I think, on a little bit of a momentum push right now, where it's like, okay, we could kind of end on the upswing, which is what we typically see Murphy do inside of the season. Like, a lot of the best episodes happen right there in the middle. Yet I don't see a satisfying ending coming with what's left. It just seems like a pretty generic clash that I think we all pretty much could have anticipated after episode 1. And that's been what's tough for me this season. It's just like, it's that give and take, and I don't know where we're gonna land. If somehow episode 6 can put us in a place that catches us off guard, introduces some, interesting twists and turns inside of those interesting story elements, and somehow also carves like a pathway into the second part of the season, then I'll be happily surprised and I will cheer and be like, yay, victory. But if it goes the route that I think it's gonna go, I think it's gonna land kind of flat. And I've been, from jump, most excited for the alien portion of this season. Because I just would love to see what Murphy and Falchuk do in that realm, really committing to that realm. The clips we've seen really makes it feel like they're committing to that realm, but I don't know, man. I'm like so up in the air on the Red Tide part, and like I said, this episode is wildly entertaining. Like, when we get to my reactions in a couple minutes, you're going to go, man, he really enjoyed this episode. Because I did really enjoy this episode, despite the fact that Conroy is barely in it and Peters isn't in it at all. I just think performance-wise, we got great stuff from 3 people who have gotten very minimal screen time. I've already talked about Culkin and Paulson, but Lily Ray brings it this week, man. Like, she hasn't had a ton to do. Well, this is the episode where her character gets some stuff to do. And I thought she brought it, man. She needs to, kind of keep us as disoriented as she is as a character in this one. And I think she does a really good job of it. Ryan Kiera Armstrong as Alma Gardner. Like I said, she's the most interesting part of that story. And she crushed this week, man. Like, terrifying. Like, I am legitimately scared of this little girl. Like, if I was her dad and she was like, Daddy, I want a pony, and I was like, no, honey, like that costs way too much money, and she shot me one of the looks she has been shooting both Lily Rabe and Finn Whitrock this season. Yo, that pony is coming so fast. Like, I really enjoy what she's doing, and I'm glad that she is going to be involved in the finale. I hope that is what saves that episode for me. Like, I think you could go some interesting places with that character, and that could maybe save that portion of the story. But she's been fantastic. Finn Whitrock, again, gives you really good stuff. While I don't think the Gardners are the strong suit of the season, he's been one of the stronger performers all season long. He's been rock solid, and this episode, man, we get to have a little bit of fun with him, at least early, where he does, like, visually, like, again, that facial acting. Now, I always talk about that. Like, how much you can convey just through a look, or how many feelings you can kind of send out just by turning your head or doing something. He's been nailing that. And he gets something right at the top of this episode where you're just like, oh, man, dude, like, this guy. And he has a flip at the end where I was like, damn, like, he went there. And, like, Whitrock has been really good, as has Leslie Grossman, who does get some stuff to do in this episode as well. But kind of talking to one of my buddies, like, she does kind of get the exact same role every season, it seems like. And that's certainly no different with this character. But performance-wise, I will watch Leslie Grossman do what she's doing all the time. She's really, really good at it. So, this is me. This is just me all season, man. I've been, like, back and forth because I do understand anybody who says that the season's been kind of boring, because I do think, because of that Gardner element, there's lots of stuff we could see coming. But I don't know, man. Like, I'm hoping, like, this episode caught me off guard a couple times. Like, there was a few routes where things happened where I was like, well, I didn't see that going down exactly that way. And if they can keep that going next episode, well, then I'm going to be a very happy Seaman, and you're going to see me hooraying and cheering. But we will see what we get. But as far as this week's episode goes, I think it's time for a score before I start spoiling stuff. So let's get the Sea Maniacs up. There they are. As I said, this was a wildly entertaining episode for me. I think performance-wise, Macaulay Culkin and Sarah Paulson, I think, are your MVPs of this episode. They are both tremendous. Paulson just puts on an acting clinic, man. You know what I mean? I will watch her do that any day of the week, while Macaulay Culkin is easily the most entertaining thing in this part of the season, and it sucks that we don't get him in part 2, but I certainly hope he is going to become a quick American Horror Story new alumni, because I would love to see him back. He's done some phenomenal stuff this season. It makes me very happy to see him on the screen again. So that's a big win. No Conroy, no Peters really in this episode at all. Bit of a loss. But you kept me off balance and got me to at least jump a few times around some of the vampire stuff and hit me with a couple small twists in and around the Gardner story, where ultimately you delivered something that gave Ryan Carrier Armstrong something that allowed me to be like, this girl, man, she is twisted. So in that kind of balancing act that's been going on, I think I've got to go 3.8 out of 5 Sea Maniacs here. I don't quite like this one as much as episode 3, which has been my favorite so far this season. And a lot of that simply has to do with the fact that Francis Conroy is almost nowhere to be seen, and we get no Evan Peters whatsoever. And after getting a ton of Francis Conroy and Peters the last 2 episodes, they were sorely missed, and that one brings it in just below. But I don't know, man. I don't personally see being super enthused at the end of this story, but considering that they've delivered 3 really strong episodes, I think, here toward the back half of this season, or this part of the season, and kept me off balance and got me kind of surprised a few times, maybe they got a couple tricks in the bag, and tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up, watch this thing, and be like, yes, let's go, it's time for part 2. I hope that's where I end up, but for right now, this episode 5, 3.8 out of 5 Sea Maniacs for me. And now it is time to get out of here if you don't want any spoilers, man. If you have not watched the episode, you don't want anything spoiled for you, now is the time to cut out. Feel free to come back when it's I give you what I want to hear from you guys at the end of the video. That'll be down in the markers. But if you don't want anything spoiled, you gotta get out of here, because now it's time to throw it back to the past Seaman and take a look at everything that he was doing during episode 5 of American Horror Story Double Feature Part 1, Red Tide. And I promise you, I think I had a pretty wildly entertaining time watching this episode. So let's throw it back to the American Horror Story Double Feature watching. Seaman, take it away, Seaman! Like a bow, 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 bow. Oh, man, what? We're coming back to pregnant? Birthing? What? Oh, man. Jump right into it, American Horror Story, okay. God, I hope you didn't take that black pill. Oh, man, he's around all the blood. He should have eaten before. Oh, man, the baby's guts everywhere. Oh, no. Didn't think about this angle of the bird. Yeah. Oh, she's had a baby. She ain't got me in the hospital anymore. How you gonna explain still being up the game? He just keeps looking at the rats. Soiled linen. What? No, don't do it. Don't, no. Oh, God. That's so gross. That's so messed up. Oh, man. Oh, it's so twisted. What if you go out there and that nurse is still his back? That was not how I thought the birthing would go down in this show. Holy crow. So he took her back to the Cape. She didn't argue about that or wonder why.
Longest I've held something that wasn't a cocktail or a grudge.
Oh man, stop that, Alma! She wants to eat her baby, bro. She's just putting together shoes out of it.
I'm supposed to be in Hyannis. You're supposed to be in New York.
This is what's best for you and the baby.
Yo, she's like, what? Yo, tell me that's Mickey. Look at that girl.
All them Hollywood B words.
Tell them they've had someone walk that path a few times. Footsteps were only in that spot. Oh, she's dreaming Alma's eating the baby. Or was that real? Tell me that was real. Was Alma really just feeding on the baby's foot? I hope that's a dream. They're gonna tell her it's a dream for sure. Oh no.
What the fuck is the matter with you? That's your brother.
Oh, she did! That's so twisted!
I'm talking to you.
It's just a sip. It's true about babies, but it's almost as good as some milk. This is like a telecaprice for a teenager. One of the hardest pieces in the world. I understand!
Yo, that little girl scares me so much. Like, what? I can't even imagine what Doris is going through, man. Like, oh, yo. No, don't you do it.
Are you okay, Mommy?
I swear to God, there's a black pill in there. There's a black pill in there! Oh, you devil!
Yes, Daddy, stop lying to her.
Oh,
I
snap,
want
dude.
her to take the pill so she can be one of us. That's why I'm able to play the Paganini.
This girl is nuts!
Is that true?
His face!
Is that true?
Doris' brain has got to be breaking. What is happening? No, man, you're gonna turn into a pale boy. Finn knows. Oh, good girl. Where is she going? Where are you going? Oh, no! No, 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 no. Oh, they're so terrifying. Why did you go outside?
Doris.
They've been here the whole time, and not because they love ours.
Oh, no.
They won't touch.
Oh, it's so messed up. Oh, man, does he have Holden in there friggin' doing design wrong? Oh, that's so... Yo, this damn kid, yo, what is she doing? How do you process that as a mother? Yo, I don't trust this girl at all. Yo, dude, this little girl is twisted. She's hoping that she's gonna not be great. Nope. Nope, she doesn't have it. She doesn't have it. She's gonna turn into a pale boy. Ugh, gross. That was a good vomit, too. Well done. Oh, man, they're going to steal the baby. Nobody's home now.
You said your freaking method. You don't think I know how to break into a goddamn house?
Oh, those pale boys, yo. Why do they move like that? Yo, she's definitely losing her hair.
Get away from my baby.
Oh, yeah, her hair's gone. No, she's a pale boy. Ah! Oh, man. No, now you're by yourself, Karen. Them pale boys gonna come for you. Yep. Oh, no. Run, Karen. No, Karen, get out of there. if Karen's gonna... I don't know what's happening with Karen. I felt pretty confident Doris wasn't gonna be talented. I don't want anything to happen to Karen. Oh man, dude, she's gonna eat that baby. She turned quick too, man. Like, just no talent must be immediate. A little bit of talent lasts a little while. I like this. I like this perspective. We've never seen the perspective of a pale boy. I guess pale person. No, don't do it. No! Oh. Alma's got what she wants. Mom gotta be out the picture. Knew it was coming eventually. No! What? Why would you do that, Ursula? That's not Ursula. That's Karen. But why would you do that? No. Oh, man. Poor Mickey. Yo. I don't know how you find a satisfying end to this in one episode. I told you, man, like, the end of this episode really caught me off guard and ended on a note that I just was not expecting the episode to end on. Like, it was very bleak, and, you know, it, just not something that I saw coming. And then on top of that, I mean, I just had a great time. I mean, Macaulay Culkin had me rolling. I was in stitches many times because of the things that he did this episode, and just the general places that we went in and around with Lily Rabe and where she was and how she ends up becoming what she ends up by the end of the episode. You know, I had a good time, even though I got my doubts about this next one coming. I enjoyed this one, but now that you know all my non-spoiler thoughts and you've seen all of my reactions from episode 5, it is time to dive into this bad boy top to bottom, and we start out the gate. You caught me off guard right out the gate. We start in the process of the birth giving that is going on by Doris. She has gone into labor and is literally in the process of having the baby when the episode starts. Was not ready for that because one of my big theories was that she was going to end up taking the pill and it was going to have some direct impact on the baby. And that was what I was thinking was going to get us into, you know, the Death Valley story. Like, somehow that baby, maybe it's in the future, even though it's black and white and looks like it's in the past, and we now know that there are some Eisenhowers in there, and it is indeed in the past. But before I put all that together, I was like, maybe the baby, that could be the link. So to dive right into the pregnancy, like the birth, I was not ready for that. And they give us a wildly entertaining cold open, man. Like, you have Lily Rabe screaming at the top of her lungs as soon as it comes on, which, jarring. But as we kind of, and granted, I don't think there's a lot of entertaining things to be seen in the course of giving birth, as not a person who's having birth, because I'm a dude, not a woman. I do not envy women whatsoever. That looks like a terrible time, you know, at least that part of the process. I know moms love everything that comes from that process, but being in it doesn't look like a lot of fun for anybody. But what Murphy and Falchuk weave into the surroundings of what's going on allows us to have some fun, because Finn Whitrock quickly finds himself in a room with a table full of cloths that are just piling up as things are going on, and the more and more that get added to the pile, well, the more and more blood that is just right there, man. All the cleaning up and all the blood that's, you know, out and about is ending up on these cloths. Those cloths are ending up on this little cart, and that cart is right next to Finn Whitrock, and his face is priceless. Like, it's so funny to have seen him be in the hospital already and not be impacted by, like, bagged blood the way Alma was, right? Like, he saw it, so he saw what she was doing and was kind of able to kind of knock her out of it. Yet you put him in a scenario where you have just dirty rags with fresh blood on it that probably makes the smell a million times stronger than it normally is. Well, Finn Whitrock is really struggling, and I didn't think that he was going. I was like, come on, you got willpower, Finn, come on, like you nah, man, he did no willpower. As soon as that baby comes out, and they give it to Lily Rabe, and she has a chance, and then they kind of take it away, clean it up, put it into its thing. She's just talking to Harry, and like she's so excited and happy that it's over or whatever. She's like, I just need to close my eyes for a minute, and she dozes off. There are no nurses in the room, and what does Harry do? He slowly slips away from Doris, grabs that cart and pushes it right into the bathroom, and proceeds to line up 3 mini little Dixie cups, and he just starts bringing these things out, man. The whole time you're just like, oh, dude, like, I can't believe you're gonna go there. Like, your own wife's blood, like, that came during, like, giving birth. Like, that's, and sure enough, man, he sets up them shots and bam, 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 takes all 3 of them. And, like, you're just, I couldn't help but sit there and go, but, like, what happens if you open that door, man? And, like, the nurse came back into the room, and she's wondering where all them like, he cleans up the bathroom quick and efficient. But, like, I don't know, there were just so many things that could have gone wrong. But fortunately for Finn, that does not happen. Instead, we get our title credits, and then we flash to Doris waking up, being very confused in the house in the Cape. And it was one of those things where, again, watching it, I was like, well, she's giving birth, so that's fine. She's in the hospital that she's been in. But, like, didn't think to bring this up at all yet, Harry. Like, you're not going to tell Doris, like, even after the birth, that's where it is. And because of just the trauma that she experienced right beforehand, a couple weeks ago, falling down the stairs, her track record with, miscarriages, and just where she was in everything that was going on. The doctors are very concerned about postpartum, and they want her in bed where she can be kind of watched by people, so she must have been sedated when they left. And they finally get her home, and, like, she wakes up to being very confused. Like, first it's, like, kind of just getting your bearings, seeing that there are people around, but then putting together that it's, like, Harry, and it's Alma, and it's Ursula, and we're in the Cape. And as you slowly see her put that together, like, this is where I was talking, like, Rabe really was locked in this episode, man. Like, as far as making you feel as disoriented as she is inside of the episode, nails that stuff. And as she slowly starts to put it together, she's just, like, kind of talking and leaves whatever she's talking. It's like, wait, why are we here? Why are we here? We should not be here. Like, I'm supposed to be in Hyannis. You're supposed to be, like, back home. And why are we here? And, I love the effect that Murphy uses from the camera of kind of giving you this in and out of focus bit, and kind of warbling the outside sounds and voices, because it really does put you in a spot where it's like you can tell she's heavily medicated, and isn't, like, clear-headed. So, like, the way Harry responds makes a lot of sense. He's very calm. He's just like, look, doctor was worried about postpartum. You needed to be somewhere that was easy to have people keep an eye on you the whole time. This is just what's best for you and the baby right now. We can talk about it some other time. And he basically just kind of puts the kibosh on, like, this is as far as we're going, and we out. You have Alma and Ursula are in there, and I think at one point we get, like, one perspective shot from Ursula's perspective, or from, Alma's perspective, and you can hear the light thudding of a heart, which is very clearly the baby's, and you're like, oh man, come on, Alma, like, that's your little brother. You can't go and eat that. Like, you can't, that's not food, Alma. And that is a thought that they put in your head only to then later make you question whether or not that is something that could or could not happen. But following that, we jump to tuberculosis. Karen, walking by the dunes, as she's going to, her spot on the beach. We find out later in the episode that that's where she likes to go to paint. That's clearly where she is walking, when all of a sudden this, like, juiced up red Ford with the big number 1 on it pulls up, and you're just like, oh, that's gonna be Mickey. Tell me it's Mickey. And Mickey gets out. He's in a lavish fur coat. He's got chains on. He's just like, what do you think of the new digs, baby? I was like, that's the other thing that's been tough with this season, is being able to really have an idea of how much time has passed, because so many things are materializing so quickly. I mean, the amount of things that Harry is working on, the fact that, like, Mickey's already gotten this car, and it's a very specific car. Like, in the world, it's a type of Ford, and they say that's the closest to the Speed Racer car, so that's what he gets. And granted, the Speed Racer car, white and red, well, the colors are a little off, but nevertheless, seeing that car pull up, I was just like, that's freaking amazing. And he's like, yeah, the studio put it on lease because I don't just have the script, man. They want an entire universe, toys, TV shows, cartoons, more movies, and they want me behind all of it. Like, the black pill is really working for Mickey. And Karen is indeed excited for him initially, but as it kind of sets in how all of this happened and where all of it's coming from, she realizes that, like, it's tragic for her that he basically had to sell his soul to get what he wants. And, you know, you can kind of see that kind of breaks her a little bit, but when Mickey tries to, like, convince her, like, hey, I could use, like, a visual artist, I'm gonna have a team. One of those team members could very easily be you, Karen. Like, we could get up out of this shithole, man. Like, book it over to the West Coast, come to Hollywood. Like, we'll live the life. And as soon as that's kind of put in play, pull over, get out, I don't want anything to do with this. And he's like, what's the matter? Like, I don't get it. Like, you have talent inside you, Karen. Like, I see it. Why can't you? She's like, it's the cost, Mickey. And she slams the door, he takes off. And, you know, you get to the end of that sequence where it's just like, damn, like, Karen not gonna take that little black pill, man. And it's so unfortunate because you can see all of the positives. And again, it's the one theme that they've pretty much gone back to again and again in the course of this season. It's what are you willing to give up to get fame, fortune, all the things, you know, all your wildest dreams. And Karen doesn't want to go there, where Mickey is just like did you forget the life that we've been living down here? Like, it can all change. It just, you just got to drink some blood out of some people. Like, that's the cost. That's the cost of being great. And Karen's not having it, and I respect that from Karen. But we go back to the Gardner house, and Doris wakes up to the baby whining. And it's, you know, the middle of the night. Like, she's obviously fallen asleep. And, you know, she gets up and looks, and the bassinet's empty. And the minute the bassinet was empty, I was like, oh no, wait, like, are we... My first thought was we were in a dream. Like, she's waking up, she's having one of these, like, very real hallucinatory dreams that feels like it's real. And she goes and she opens that door, and I think even the way it's shot, and the way, you know, Murphy, you know, has them moving the camera here, like, it kind of, like, for a minute I was like, this is definitely a dream. And you open up those doors, and there's Alma just sucking the blood out of this little guy's leg, and you're just like, dude, that's messed up. Like, what a terrifying dream to have. Like, because that was one of the other things you were picking up with Doris, is like, she seemed to, like, outwardly or inwardly kind of know what was going on around her to a degree, like, subconsciously picking up on things. I was like, that's cool. Like, it's bleeding into her dreams where she thinks Alma's gonna eat this kid, and then she passes out, like, faints. And as soon as she faints, I was like, wait, you don't faint in dreams, does that mean it's real? And we then cut to that coming morning, and you got Alma playing the violin like crazy, like she's really locked in. And in the back of your head, you're just like, she was definitely sucking on that baby's leg. And the next thing you know, Harry comes in and is just like, what the hell, Alma? Like, that is your baby brother. You cannot do that to your baby brother. And then you're like, oh yeah, that was her. She was sucking that kid's leg, like it was a juice box, man. Like, that is not gonna end well for Doris. And she's just like, Dad, but you don't get it. Like, we don't need her. Why is she still even around? Like, we should just get rid of her now. And it was just a sip. Like, you don't get, like, baby's blood is almost better than the pill itself. Like, I'm doing things that, like, you wouldn't believe. And the next thing you know, man, Harry just rips that violin out of her hand. You know, he's like, I'm trying to keep this family together through the most ridiculous, absurd circumstances. And it's like, and that's one of the other things too, where it's like, Alma has had all these adult interactions and is doing all these adult things. Like, you forget, like, she's a 9-year-old little girl, man. So when Harry goes full dad mode and he rips that violin out of her hand and threatens to smash it, she goes right back into being a little kid. It's like, no, I understand. Do not break my violin. And he stops and he puts it down. You can see, like, in his eyes, like, Whitrock is carrying a lot of guilt. Like, all this stuff never happens if he never takes one of those pills. I love that you get to see that, you know, from Harry as he's just kind of trying to hold everything together. And we go up to see Ursula, reading a book next to Doris's bed, and as Doris kind of wakes up, she's kind of out of it. She freaks out. She's like, "Where's the baby?" Ursula's like, "The baby's in the bassinet. It's fine." And she's like, "No, you don't understand. I had a dream with Alma, and she was feeding on the baby's leg." And Ursula's like, "The drugs are." She's like, "No, I know what's real. Like, I can distinguish what's real and what's reality." And Ursula makes me wonder if Ursula's had kids, and if she's had kids, where are those kids in the world? What kind of kids are those? Because she's like, like sometimes she's like, those drugs, man, they got a long tail. You come out of that pregnancy, you got the postpartum going on, and the drugs, like, you might hallucinate and not realize you're hallucinating, Doris. Like, I promise you, everything is fine. The baby's right there. And as they're having this conversation, like, she brings her some soup, and you see Doris like take a couple spoons. She does do like one, I think, big drink, where it's like you think she's probably gotten a good amount of the soup, but they're talking, and as they wrap up talking, Ursula just kind of takes the soup away, and Doris is like, "I'm done. I'm not done. Like, that, I wasn't finished with that." And Ursula's just like, "Oh, you're finished." And she's like, "I think, I'm going to just let you have a little time to yourself to feed the baby. Like, you handle that. But if I were you, I would get on board, like shape up or ship out." Because one of the other things that they talk about is the fact that, Harry has a lot on the line. Like, Ursula's pulled off some crazy stuff. He's got, like, 2 series in the can. He's working on something with Tarantino. He's got 2 or other 3 things in the mix, and now they want him to rewrite the Avatar. And that was the thing that kind of really throws off Doris, where she's like, "That's not Harry. I've known Harry. Like, he is not that prolific of a writer." And Ursula's just like, "Must be something in the water, but, he's crushing things, so you better get on board and like stay out the way," kind of deal. Kind of like this little lingering through, soft tone threats. And Ursula leaves, and Doris takes the baby, starts feeding him, and you get this kind of montage where you're going off that violin, man, and Alma's going ham on the violin as, you see, and you get this really wonderful bit from Ray where she's feeding the baby. And as she's feeding the baby, you see her literally emotionally break. Like, it's like it almost looks like it's kind of painful. Like, and that was where I was like, wait, did she take one of them black pills? Like, is this baby craving blood now? That's not what was going on. It is the emotional pain of everything that's happening as she is realizing, like, either I'm losing my mind or, like, my daughter was feeding on my son's leg. And as she's kind of emotionally losing that, and Alma's going to town, you see Harry doing all the stuff that's in between there, right? Where he's going out, he's getting the blood, it's all in the thermos, he's cleaning the thermos and the sink and everything, he's delivering the blood to Alma, and you kind of go through that up until Doris getting up to put the baby down. And like I said, that emotional breaking of her probably being like, this is what I think is happening, which is heartbreaking in and of its own. But if it's not happening, then I'm losing my mind, and that's not good. So as soon as she puts the baby down, man, she rolls up that pant leg, and sure enough, they're bite marks. And she like goes to like scream, and who's in the room but Alma? And I was just like, oh man, this little girl, man, like she's been wanting her mom out the way for so long, and it doesn't take long till you see like she's got this cup of pills, and Doris is just like, hey, I had a dream about you. And Alma's like, oh, was it a good dream or a bad dream? And like, even just the way that Kira Armstrong is talking during this, like, I was just like, you are a creepy little child, man. But she, she's like, no, it was a bad dream. And she's like, well, here, maybe the medicine will make the bad dreams go away. Daddy wanted me to bring you your pills. And Doris is suspect from jump, man. And I mean, I don't blame her, because in her head, she saw her daughter feeding on her son. Like, that's what's in her head. So she is very, like, not, and as she's going, she's looking. Look, I've been alive for 35 plus years. I have never seen an all black pill. And the minute she puts them out, she pinpoints, and you're just like, there was a black pill in there. She's like, what's this? And she starts screaming, and now Harry comes running in, and he plays dumb, right? He's like, what is that? What? And like, you see him like shoot a look to Alma, I think, at one point, where it's like, what the are you doing? And she's like, no, she put this in here. And he's like, I don't know what it is. Like, maybe it's a mix. I don't know. Like, I don't know anything. She's like, no. She is trying to kill me. She was feeding on her brother. She's trying to poison me and kill me. And Harry's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I found the marks on his leg. And Harry's like, oh, that's like the little like house arrest bracelet thing that goes on their ankles. Like, they were taking it off, and I swear the nurse like scratched it. I gave it to her, and she's like, stop lying. And then you just hear Alma go, yeah, Daddy, stop lying. And you're like, what? This girl is about to blow the whole thing. And that's exactly what she does, man. She's like, look, that pill makes us do great things. And I want you to take that pill, mommy, so you can be like us. And you're just like, immediately, you're like, you are double crossing. Like, that little girl knows that if Doris takes that pill, much like we did in the episode, like the first episode, you're like, oh man, Doris is pregnant. She gonna end up taking one of them pills. She ain't gonna have no talent, man. She gonna turn into one of them pale boys. And you're just like, that's this little devil, man. Like, she is trying to convince Doris to take this pill to get her out of the picture. That, like, it's so obvious that that's what's going on. But I'm telling you, Armstrong sells it in a way where you're just like, maybe she does believe that, like, maybe mom has talent and then everybody can truly be happy together. And as she kind of says that, Doris for a minute makes it look like she's going to take that pill. And she throws the glass and the pills on the ground, spins, grabs the baby, and just hauls ass out of the house. And you're like, where are you going, woman? Like, you ain't got no shoes on. Like, it's wintertime in the Cape. You don't have a coat or anything. And the next thing you know, she's just running down the street. And you're like, as soon as you're outside and you're in the open, you're like, well, now you're gonna get jumped by a bunch of pale boys. And sure enough, them creepy mofos start jumping out, man. The one that came through the bushes scared the bejesus out of me. And before you know it, she is surrounded by these things. And that's when Harry shows up. As soon as he does, it must be a chemical reaction. Like, this is where I wish the season went more into the Chemist and Mickey and you know, Belle, like diving more into the Chemist being in the Cape than having this Gardner story, because I want to know why anyone who's taken the pill is repelled by, you know, like any of those pale boys are repelled by any of the regular creatives who have taken it. And it's like one of these things where it feels like we are just leading to a clash between Belle and Austin and Harry and Alma, and maybe Ursula gets involved. I don't know. But it feels like there's this clash coming. And if you were going to try to keep us on our toes, give us something that we don't see coming, and it's one of those things where, like having this bit of information would help a lot. But maybe there is like a chemical reaction to taking the pills where you can sense or smell in the bloodstream that it's in there, and that makes it impossible for you to kill or feed on someone else who has taken the pill. That would be an interesting twist, because then Belle and Austin couldn't kill Harry straight up, you know, and vice versa. So that could be interesting to play with, but where does that take? I don't know. But that's one of those things where it's like, if that would have been the focus of the season, I think we could have gotten something way more interesting. It's something that you could have dove more into and cracked. You know, so much, like I said, so much of the story around the Gardners is so surface level. Like, there's not a ton to crack into. And that's one of those things where it's like, if you would have gone down the route of the Chemist, we could have explored more into, like, why, if you've taken the pill, the pale boys don't mess with you. And maybe it is because there's some sort of chemical reaction. But nevertheless, when Harry shows up, he kind of just hugs and squeezes Doris and is like, look, deep breaths, I'll tell you everything, but just come back with me. Like, you're safe as long as you're with me. He pulls her back, and we go to commercial. And we come back to Karen painting on the beach. And this is where we saw her walking at the beginning of the episode. And considering how much time has passed with the Gardners from when we last saw Karen, it's very likely that this is just a place she goes every single day. So we see her on the beach, and she's painting. And, like, her paintings aren't terrible. Like, definitely better than I would be able to do. But they're not great. And it's the perfect amount of, like, skill for you to sit there and go, Karen took a black pill, would she break toward the Pale Boys, or would she break toward being an actual creative? And it's at that point that Belle Noire shows up, and Belle comes down. This is the only bit that we get with Conroy. She crushes it, just the way that she crushes one of Karen's paintings, which, like, when it happened, I was like, oh man, like, come on, like, she worked so hard, even if you don't like it, like, she worked hard on that, Belle. Nevertheless, she's there because she's heard that the Gardners have had a baby, and they're still in town. And she's like, I need you to go procure that baby for me. And you're like, oh, dude, that's messed up. Like, we know the baby blood is better, but, like, poor, like, Karen, really? And then they hit you with another twist with Karen's character, that Karen has had to do that before, because she gets to a point where she's just like, no, Belle, like, I'm not stealing another kid for you. And Paulson's performance, just the sheer terror that she has in talking to Belle, yet trying to find the confidence to say no. really, really impressive stuff from Paulson. It's such a small little scene, but Belle basically is like, it's the elixir of the gods, and if you don't do it, well, and all of a sudden all these pale boys show up, and it's like Belle has control of them, which is, again, is something super interesting that I wish we would have dove into more, and something that I think you could have fleshed out a little bit if the Gardner story wasn't involved. But it seems like they respond to her almost like she's the queen vampire type bit, you know what I mean? And she's just like, you're gonna do this, or you're going to have an issue. Because they won't touch you as long as I don't tell them to. But if I say, go on, they're going to come kill you, Karen. And that's that. And Karen doesn't give an answer and plays it in a way where it's like, okay, I got the threat, received, I'll handle things. But she never says that she's going to go and do it. Which makes her next interaction with Mickey fantastic. But before we go there, Doris has to wake up disoriented all over again. And once again, like, she is kind of not, like, totally there, but gets herself together enough to get up, see the baby is in the bassinet, and then she goes on, like, a crazy search. I thought she was looking for, like, black pills. She goes through all, like, the cabinets, then she's going through drawers, and the next thing you know, she ends up with, like, a pair of scissors in her hands. And you're like, what is she doing with a pair of scissors? And the only thing I can decipher from that is maybe she was actually thinking of, like, going downstairs and getting stuff and maybe doing work. But nevertheless, she walks downstairs, and as she gets closer, you can hear Holden's voice. And you're like, oh, they brought Holden Vaughn in. Like, he's doing the redesign. And as she goes down, you can hear him shredding her, confirming for us that she has zero talent. And as he's going, then, like, Harry sees her and kind of flips he's like, oh, man, like, you get, like, a line where it's like, Holden's like, like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something. Like, you can tell, like, he's kind of backhanded, like, not giving her any compliments whatsoever. And, as they're kind of trying to apologize or whatever, and, like, kind of, like, Harry's like, no, look, like, I know how important this job was to you with postpartum and the baby. Like, it's going to be hard, so I want Holden does stuff here. He's going to help out, and, like, she's about to, what it feels like, break in a sense, like, that's BS. Like, I can still do this. This is my job. You're giving it away because you don't think I have talent. Like, you can kind of feel like that's where the convo is bubbling to, and the baby cries. And as soon as the baby cries, you hear Holden go, ew! And you look, and sure enough, she's lactating, and Ursula's like, that's just a natural reaction when the baby cries. Ursula knows a lot about babies. I'm pretty sure she's got some kids of her own. But she's like, you should go back up and feed the kid. And, Doris spins on her heels and goes back upstairs. And then we jump to Mickey packing up his apartment or wherever it is that he's staying. He's putting things, into boxes. And Karen just bursts in and is like, what the hell? You told Belle where I was? How could you do that to me? And I loved Mickey's response, man. Colgan's just sitting there and he's like, I didn't know it was private information that you were painting on the beach. Like, these are all people that we interact with. Why would I have thought, like, it was, like, you can't tell Belle where you are. Karen goes into, like, what Belle wants from her, how she's not gonna do it, and Mickey, again, is just like, Karen, if you're not gonna steal this baby, your outcome is not good. And he's like, I think you just listen to me. And he's like, I want to take you with me. Like, we won't move out to Hollywood. We'll go down to the Palisades and we'll have all the lavish parties and things they have. I think he calls them like the 4 P's of Hollywood. It's like, I don't remember what they were, but he's like, it'll be set up, man, and like we'll be together. He's like, I love you, and I want to be with you. And I want to take you with me and show you the everything, He's like, I just need you to take one of these pills. She's like, I'm not taking the pill, man. That's not going to happen. None of that's real. He's like, well, then I don't think you have much of a choice. I think you got to steal the baby then. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. And she's like, well, I need your help. She's like, I'm not giving it to Belle. And I'm getting clean, Mickey. Like, I'm going to turn things around on my own. Like, I don't need the pill to do that. And, like, if I steal this baby to keep it safe, that'll give me something to be responsible for that'll help me get clean. Like, please just help me. And, like, Paulson, like, it is just, like, it is a ridiculous conversation, and yet you are just feeling all of the sympathy and empathy in the world towards Karen. You're just like, yeah, steal that baby. And like, get yourself clean, girl. Like, you could do it. Like, that house, you don't want a kid raised in that house anyway. And, Mickey basically is like, fine. If that's what it'll take, then that's what it'll take. And, he goes, game on. And we jump back to Doris in bed, and Alma comes in. And right out the gate, you're just like, what is this kid doing? She basically breaks down everything that's been going on with the pill. What it does, why it's great, and the fact that, like, if Doris takes this pill, she can be functioning on that level with them, and as a family, they can kind of all go through this together. And she's like, I know you're nervous because Dad doesn't think you have talent, but he's wrong. I know you have talent. You could be one of the best designers in the entire world, and it's all right here in this little pill. And I'm like, I'm sitting here, man. I'm like, this little 9-year-old girl, what's she been hanging out with, like, car salesmen? Like, she is so good where I'm like, yeah, I would take that pill. And you can literally see it in Rabe's performance. Like, Doris is slowly coming, like, letting her guard down and kind of being won over to, like, this absolute craziness. If I'm a part of it, maybe it won't seem as crazy, and maybe we can keep the family together or whatever. And sure enough, Alma sells the hell out of it, and she pops it. And you can see how happy Alma is because she knows that this woman is going to turn into one of those pale people. And we jump to the next day, and we hear Alma once again crushing the violin. Anytime you hear her crush the violin, you know she's just fed or she's had a pill of her own. She's going to town, and we see Doris feverishly working on designs. And for like a hot second, you were like, oh damn, like maybe she does have some talent. And I love this. Like, from a technical standpoint, this is the type of stuff that I live for. The way the camera comes around and pushes in, and you start to see what she's been working on. Because we kind of start on this wide where you can't tell. You can just see she's doing lots of things. And she's locked in and moving in a way that's kind of frantic, similar to how Harry was. Or even Belle, for that matter. And as the camera pushes in, you just start seeing all these design concepts. And they kind of look like kids drew them. And they don't look super strong. Like, there's just nothing that jumps off the page like that would make it seem prolific or anything like that. And then she's working on something and she stops and she erases it and she tries to go back and then she just like starts losing it and just starts going like insert until she rips through the paper and you're like, no talent. Like, she is going to be a pale person. And that's one of the other things too that I would have loved to have seen be dived into more, because Doris's turn to going pale is like less than 24 hours, whereas the dude who was singing seemingly, I mean, they didn't, again, time is passed in these episodes in ways where I can't always have a firm grasp of how long we've been here. But, like, it seemed like the first pale person, or pale boy, as I call him, like, had time, like, it was a slow de-evolution. And that's something that I also think is fascinating. Like, if you have zero, because he could sing, he had some talent, so maybe it took longer for him. Maybe someone like Rabe has zero talent, so it happens right away. But nevertheless, once you see her starting to go crazy, you're like, well, that's it for her. And the next thing you know, bleh, projectile vomit everywhere. I mean, I was like, oh, that was some good, well-executed projectile vomit. Like, anytime I see stuff like that, and it's clearly not coming from like a tube out the side of a mouth, you're just like, they had to have all that goop in there and just wait for the action to expel it. And like the way it came out, like, it really felt like real vomit. But nevertheless, following that, we advance to night, and you have Harry, Alma, and Ursula getting ready to leave the house. And Harry's like, I don't think we should go. Like, we could just order. And Ursula's like, I swear to God, if we get one more thing inside of a container delivered to this house, I am going to lose it. Me and Alma want to go out and get real food. And for a minute, I was like, wait, is Ursula trying to go, like, be in on the killing and the feeding? Like, they all just want, I guess they do eat regular food too, even though maybe red meat, like, as long as they eat red meat, it's fine. But, like, they're like, we want a real meal, Daddy. Like, can we please go out? So and Ursula's like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Baby wakes up, she feeds the baby, everybody goes back to sleep. Like, it's fine. So they leave. And, of course, as soon as they leave, who's coming down the street but Mickey and Karen to break in, which is just kind of a fun little bit in and of itself, because like Karen's like looking at all the windows and Mickey's like, back this way. She's like, not the windows. He's like, I'm a meth head. Like, what? You don't think I know how to break into a house? You gotta go through the back. And they, Karen might have been right. Like, maybe one of the windows would have been open and would have made no noise. But instead, they work toward the back, and prior to that happening, naturally, Doris wakes up and goes to the bathroom, right? So, like, she looks, she sees the baby's fine, she gets up and kind of stumbles into the bathroom, and, while she's in there, Mickey breaks the glass, opens the door, they start moving in, but as soon as he broke the glass, Doris heard it. And they get upstairs. Doris nowhere to be seen. They move over. Mickey comes to the bed. He's like, there's the baby. And sure enough, out of the shadows, very slowly, comes Doris. And I love the way they shot this. Because, like, it is a slow kind of out of pitch black darkness of the bathroom. As she comes out, you're just waiting for it, man. You're like, where's the hair? Hair's gotta be gone. Hair's gotta be gone. And sure enough, like, as she comes out, it is clean bald up top and just hair coming down the back like freaking Hulk Hogan, man. And she's like, who are you two? And as soon as Karen sees that she's turned into a pale person, she freaks out. She's like, what is wrong with you people? She goes running away. And Mickey's like, what do we do with the baby? And he slowly goes after her, and we watch Karen just hightail it, like, out, you know, and she like gets outside, and same thing, almost identical to the Doris situation. The minute she's out in that street, you're like, it's the middle of the night, she's all alone, like, pale boys start coming out, man. They surround her in a circle, they push her into some random house's like doorstep, and she's literally there crying, screaming, she's so scared, and who but Mickey shows up, and she's like, Mickey, please, she's like, please save me, get me out of here. He's like, you know, Karen, I love you, you know, and I wish you could see how talented you are on the inside the way that I see you, but you can't, and that is a super bummer for me. So this is what I'm gonna do for you. You can take this pill, you can come join me, or these guys are gonna kill you, but this is as far as I can take it. And she's like, what are you talking about, Mickey? He's like, I have to go. And he gets up and starts to walk away, and you just hear Karen like screaming, like, Mickey, no, I don't want to die, I don't want to be eaten, like, please, no. Like, literally, her worst nightmare is about to happen. And as these freaking, again, the way they move and stuff, and the sound effects around, like, all the design around the pale people has been so good. And as they're getting closer to her, you're feeling it, and right into the mouth. And as soon as it goes in the mouth, they all kind of push away. And you're just like, it's one of those things where, like, you just feel for her. Like, there was no other move for Karen. And this is kind of, like, interesting stuff that I wish we could have been diving into all season. Because, like, this is the stuff where it's like these people are aware of what's going on and some of the choices and things. And just kind of pushing Karen, like, to that type of place. Heartbreaking stuff. And naturally, we come back to Doris, who is in the bathroom, freaking out. She starts shaving her head so that she is full clean bald, and then she like stumbles her way down the stairs, gets into the kitchen, and starts like going through drawers, and comes out with a freaking like Michael Myers knife, man. And you're like, oh no, she's gonna kill this freaking baby, man. And sure enough, she stumbles her way back up the stairs, stands over the baby, and she's like starting to twitch and stuff, and you're like, damn, dude, like she turned so fast. And the next thing you know, it's almost like she's like there's some sort of like internal struggle, and she finally just like goes full pale and like comes up with the knife, and as she's about to come down, she gets tackled by Harry, and like mild chaos kind of like breaks out where like she's like going nuts, and like the first thing he does, he pins her to the ground, and he's just like, Doris, like why did you do this? And like she's like going nuts, and he basically grabs her, throws her into the bathroom, pulls the doors closed. I think he rips off his belt, ties that around the doors, and then slides like the hutch in front of it to kind of trap her inside of the bathroom. And like you can tell he is like, what the hell? Like, how did this even happen? And Ursula and Alma come in, and they're like, it was us. Like, I convinced Mommy to take him because me and Ursula knew that this would happen, and this is the only way that you would let her go, Daddy. Like, she needs to be out of the picture. She should have been out of the picture a long time ago, and this is now what'll get her out of the picture. And Ursula's just sitting there kind of with like a grin, agreeing to everything that Alma kind of lays out, and you're like, man, Harry's gonna have some tough decisions ahead of him. But before we can see those, we get to Karen bursting into Mickey's for the second time. And she's like, I can't believe you made me do that, you son of a bee. Like, you made me take that pill. And Mickey is just like, thank God you took the pill. And you seemingly look fine. Now, granted, again, that singer dude, it seemed like it took a couple days for him to turn. But he's like, he kind of just calms her down. And she's, a little hysterical. And he just goes, Karen, what is your dream painting? Like, if your piece of art could be anything, what would it be? And she describes the beach set that she always goes to and does. He's like, well, now you can do that. Like, you have the talent inside you. The pill is going to make it epic. So, look, we're already here. only thing you need to make that happen is to feed. So let's go find somebody. We'll find someone who's inconsequential. Nobody will miss them. Plenty of those people in this area. We'll find one of them. We'll get you fed, and then you can make your dream come true. And this is that moment where I was talking about where like Paulson is juggling all these ranges of emotions. She comes in and she's like, she does one of these like hand things and is just kind of like, and like gives Mickey this big ass hug. And in her face, you can see this joy and elation of like knowing what her goal would be from an art perspective, and knowing, almost seemingly like she knows she could do it, and like that's a legit future for her. And like as she's doing that, like tears are just streaming down her face, and you can see this conflicted look of both joy and sadness and pain happening all at the same time. And like it's almost like pushing Karen to like a place where she looks like she's really starting to maybe lose it. Like she's kind of fighting and grappling with all these things, and as we see what happens on the back end, I think that joy and pain combo was more of like joy because I'm finally going to get to make the painting I've always wanted to make, but painful and sadness because she knows what the outcome of everything is going to be, which was certainly an outcome that I did not see coming whatsoever. But so we see them, they head to the beach, and we jump to Harry confronting Doris, who's in the bathroom. I think, and there was a nice jump scare too. Like there was a moment, I don't know if it was before this convo, I think it's before this, back when they first were. But when she's inside, there's like glass windows and stuff, and you're just like, you're waiting for it, and they waited just long enough where it didn't happen where you thought it was going to happen, and then she like had a hand burst through. But having fought as much as she did, she's basically unconscious on the ground. Harry comes in and basically is just like, Doris, I hate that this happened, but the girls are right. Maybe this is the best thing. Like, this was not going to work with where my trajectory is, and now at least you won't have to live through that stuff. Like, you won't have to see me succeeding and being interviewed and being on red carpets with beautiful women on my arm. Like, you'll be able to avoid all that. And this is that flip that I was talking about from Whitrock, where, like, you have this guy who genuinely has just been trying to keep his family together, and while doing the thing that like is making him super successful and super talented. And it's like you go from that man who was in there to now that man is gone, and that flip in his face as he delivers like, this is gonna be goodbye, Doris, like, is heartbreaking to a degree, because like, one, heartbreaking for Doris that she's where she's at, but also like for Harry too. Like he's lost his soul because his daughter took a pill that she shouldn't have taken, and like she was like, soul was right from the get-go, it seems. But nevertheless, they put her in like one of them knitted like big sweaters, like coats, and they take her outside and just kind of push her off, like like you see like sometimes when animals get like nursed back to health or whatever, and they get released into the wild, it's like, go on, see you later. That's what they do with Doris, and you see her just kind of starting to freak out, and she moves her way down the street, and you got Ursula, Alma, and Harry watching, and Alma kind of grabs Harry's hand, and like you can tell that like this is like, now we can get back to doing what we need to do, and this like thing that was kind of hanging over us, now it's gone, which makes me wonder, like, is the baby gonna become like a supply of blood for these guys every time they need a little pick me up? Like, is that, I don't know. That could be another one of them twisted things that like you could throw in at the end and be like, oh man, that's where we ended up. But nevertheless, you see her head off, and we then go back to Mickey on the beach, and he's like, all right, look, there's a guy literally like camping out, man, like breakfast right for us, no big deal. And Karen comes in and gives him like another hug, like to thank him again for what he's doing for her. And he's like, yeah, I'm doing this for us. She's like, yeah, I'm doing this for both of us too. And rips out his karate. I freaked out, dude. I was like, what? No, not Mickey. Like, Mickey was supposed to survive at least to the finale. Like, I needed Culkin in that finale. But Paulson just rips it out. I think sucks a little bit of that juice. He drops face first, and then she goes like crazy. Similar to Doris, just starts painting with her hands. And what's crazy is you're seeing her do all this stuff, and there's precision to her movements where you're like, oh man, like, is this about to be like a really dope painting? And you see her going, they show her face a bunch, and like she looks like a crazed person with all this blood on her face. Paulson's crushing it, man. And she finishes. We never see the painting, so we never know if it was crap and like she was going to become pale, or if it was really good and she could have lived out her days with Mickey down in the Palisades. And instead, she gets up and she just starts walking toward the ocean. And, like, you're sitting there, you're just like, are you going to just walk it, let the water take you? And then it went to a place that's always visually tough and is never something to kind of just gloss over. Suicide is not one of those things. But boom, you see like knife down the arms, and you're like, damn. And it's one of those things, you know, that you never want to see used as just like a storytelling device, because suicide is such a serious issue that impacts so many people. And for anybody to feel like they don't have, you know, an alternative or someone to turn to, and that's their out, like, it's not something to just kind of be thrown in. But and it's not something to be like, I don't know, like artistically praised, I would say, either. But the way in which Murphy handles this shot and the whole composition around this sequence and what it means for the character and how in line it is, it hit this like darkly beautiful scene of just watching Karen walk into the ocean and let the water just take her away. And it was heartbreaking, like absolutely heartbreaking. Like, this is a woman who did not need to end up where she ends up, and does because of circumstances kind of out of her control. And it was just this kind of eerie, beautiful thing to kind of watch. And it immediately made me feel conflicted, because there's nothing beautiful about suicide whatsoever. Like, that is not a beautiful end to any person's tale. But in the crazy world of American Horror Story, it fit for Karen, and I thought it was executed in a way that was very respectful to what was happening on the screen. And that's where the credits come in, and you're left there going, damn, we're down two of my favorite characters. Lily Rabe, who's gotten like no time all season long and is not going to get any more, although she does get, I'm sorry, not where credits hit. There is one little more piece that we get with Lily Rabe, and I'm sure she'll play into the finale, but she ain't going to be talking or doing anything like that. But the last thing that we see is Ursula and Alma walking through the cemetery. Is the cemetery like dead center of town? Like, you have to go through the cemetery to get places in an efficient manner? Like, I feel like people are just walking through the cemetery all the time. But, you know, Alma immediately is like, where are we going? She's like, I'm taking you to the chemist. She's like, why are you taking me to her? She's like, you're going to help Auntie Ursula seal this deal. Because who could say no to such a pretty little cute face like yours? Like, basically going to use her as like a bribe to get the chemist to commit to this deal, to, you know, sell her pills through her. And as they're walking, you hear kind of a noise, and they look up, and they see Doris clearly feeding on something. She looks back, covered all in blood, and Alma, like, they kind of freeze, and then Alma's just, like, immediately over it, and, like, kind of has this satisfied look to her face, like, I did that, and I'm so glad that she is nothing now. And it kind of takes off, and, like, Ursula kind of, like, has one of these, like, you little, you know, and then she kind of follows suit, and Doris, you just see her turn and hunch over and go in on this animal, very similar to the shot that we saw of Alma doing it earlier. And it's like, you kind of get this bring back and create this, like, situation where, like, Alma seeing something that she did, but in a way that she did not do, and how satisfied that makes her is terrifying, man. And that wraps the episode up, where it's like, yeah, we're probably going to see, you know, Doris come in as some sort of a vampire attack somewhere down the line. I feel like we got to answer this, why the pale people flee, you know, or succumb to any of the creatives that end up taking the pill. And can the creatives fight each other? This feels like a Belle versus Harry collision is coming, but I don't know how that plays out because of some of these things that are kind of floating out there. So I'm hoping that Murphy and Falchuk find a finale to this part of the season that hits and is satisfying and gets us pumped for the next part. I'm just not fully confident that we're going to get there. But nevertheless, there you go, man. Those are all my non-spoiler, my reactions, and my spoiler thoughts on American Horror Story double feature part 1, Red Tide. I apologize for the construction, which never stopped. I don't think they took lunch. It's not a gun. But we made it through, man, and I'm glad that you were here with me. And now that I am done talking, I want to know what you're thinking about episode 5 of part 1, Red Tide. Where does this land for you in the course of the 5 episodes that we've had? Were you wildly entertained? Were you semi-bored to death? I literally have talked to people who have given me both. So I want to know where you're landing and where you're landing on the season overall. Has it entertained you at all? Has it kept your attention? Are you one of these just American Horror Story fans who loved it so much at the beginning you'll just watch all the episodes even if you're not digging the season? I really want to know where you fall, what you think about episode 5. It's the spoiler. It's a spoiler-ish review, so please note if you have a spoiler, but feel free to talk about anything in this episode down below in the comments section. I look forward to talking to all you guys down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the Seaman as we approach that finale for you guys. It'll be tonight for me. It'll be tomorrow morning. And I promise you I will have a review up somewhat early tomorrow to kind of wrap out part 1. You want to be here for that? You haven't yet? Well, come. Join C-Maniac Nation. So easy to do. Just jump over there. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Mans, Cinema Sit Down. I've been the C-Man. I'll sign off. Peace. Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.